Hey there, people. It is October 15th, Thursday, um, which is not usually when I record videos like this. But as you might have noticed, I did not finish my reviews from yesterday. I kind of fell asleep, and I slept for like 10 hours, and I woke up without an alarm, and it was brilliant. But I have to finish these reviews, because otherwise, people will do things. I don't know. I have a personal responsibility. I have great power, so... yes, let us finish this week's reviews. Part 3, starting with Welcome Back, issue number 2 of 4. And I really want this to be longer than 4 issues. I really do. Because, one, it's such a great concept. It's a very well-told story. And I feel that they're still in, like, the first act. Like, there's still so much more I want to hear, and I want to experience with these characters and with this world, and I want there to be more than 2 issues. Like, even if they extend this to like 12 or 8 or to 6 or 8 or something, I just want to see more of this world and story. It's so great so far. So what happens in this book is our main character Mal, who has just re-met her dad, who is now in the body of a 6-year-old girl. Is finally kind of figuring out and getting used to the fact that they are sequels. They're kind of Highlanders. They keep on being born and die and reborn and live and die and live again and all that to fight this war that she does not quite understand, and neither does her father. It's revealed. And she's on the run. The dad tells her that now that she's been awakened, people are going to come after her, and so she has to train and be prepared. The person coming after her, we were also introduced to last issue, Tessa. We see kind of her giving chase, and she is just ruthless and efficient. She is someone you do not want coming after you. And it's more than just her. As they are escaping, there's this great sequence where we see an experienced sequel in action as Mal's father, like in the body of the 6-year-old girl, kind of jumps into the action here. And I love this scene where, as we see her jump, we see like her previous lives, and it reminds me of Avatar, how Korra or Aang would have like these moments where they become their previous lives. But as she's leaping into battle, we have her with the bat, and then a previous life with the tomahawk, and then we have like a samurai and a ninja and all these people, and like all those generations of experience, just culminating in this kick-ass moment, very much like Hit Girl from the Kick-Ass movies. I haven't really read the comics, to be completely honest. And it's just good-looking art as well. And then there's this book is very exposition heavy, which is a weakness. There's a lot of reading in this book, a lot of backstory that's still being told. But what I like is how they intersplice it, how they're talking about how in previous lives Mal is realizing that she's lived lives of luxury, she's lived lives of intense poverty, and we kind of see that play out in the dichotomy between how Tessa's staying in this like very fancy hotel, while Mal is sneaking off in the back of a truck and sleeping in a truck, and just seeing that dichotomy there of how these people are living their multiple lives very differently from one another. Then there's a lot more exposition. We have a bit more fight scenes with Tessa and some other people. Mal gets a bit more backstory explained to her. Like I said, it still feels like we're in the middle or towards the end of the first act. And I don't want this book to have a really rushed third act, I want this book to be longer. I want more of these characters. I like how they're developing, but to fit it all into 4 issues, it feels like we're going a bit slow. So that's about it for Welcome Back. Very interesting story, very well done, likable characters. Weak points are that they're just squeezing in too much exposition because of the limited run format. So that's that for that. Next up, we have The Wicked and the Divine, issue 15. Yep, Karen Gillan. The guest artist this time is Stephanie Hans, who just blew me away from the first panel. You have this more kind of photo-realistic, painterly style here. Closest thing I can think of off the top of my head is kind of like a sunnier Alex Ross. Alex Ross, like the Superman panels of like that Alex Ross would draw. Where it's definitely like Hans is owning this style here, and it's just great. And I love we get a backstory of Amaterasu, and we see her before she got turned into a god, and she has a Amaterasu doll that looks a lot like from the game Okami, which is a great game, and you should play it if you haven't. So yeah, just a beautiful art style. We then cut to Amaterasu after a god. She's going to this Japanese temple, and it seems that she's actually taking her godhood very personally and very sincerely. And this panel is brilliant too, where we just see all the gods in Tara's hospital room. Yeah, I just love the art in this book, right in this issue. I mean, the art's always fantastic. But this issue is a real standout. So yeah, we get like all the gods reacting to Tara's death, including Amaterasu, and we have Amaterasu. We have her backstory kind of explained, and we have a deeper look into her. Throughout the book, she's been kind of just like the nice goddess. Like she's sunny and nice and pleasant to be around. Doesn't have as much drama going on with as many of the other god and the rest of the pantheon, pretty much. So we take a deep cut into her and see kind of what drives her. How does she handle the responsibility of being a god? And she has a bit of a tiff, let's say, with Erder, in that they have a bit of a spat during this fight. And again, it's beautiful. Erder kind of calls her out, and it's pushing the nice girl. Erder pushes the nice girl a bit too far, and so Ami pushes back, teleports her to Hiroshima, Japan, and I just love like what they're doing in these panels here, where and they point it out later in the book, but just from this panel, you have Hiroshima, Japan, and then you see like this bright flashing light, and it's Amaterasu, who's a sun goddess in Japan, but the way they're framing it, and they point it out later, it is very reminiscent of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings from World War II, the atomic bomb dropped in Japan, and I just love what that does to the book, because it's this tipping point for Amaterasu. She literally explodes at Erder over Japan, and it's like what happens when you push too far. It's someone literally being pushed to critical mass, and it's just some great like storytelling through art and all that. And then over here, this panel where she says, "I am Amaterasu," and you have like first the imperial Japanese flag thing going on with the sun, and then the stripes. You have Amaterasu, and it's just so great, so layered. And the art, it's just fantastic. Just the ideas, and then the quality, the actual thorough artiness of it. I don't know. It's just great. After the tiff, they have a bit of a heart-to-heart, and they discuss what their driving motivations are. And then we end this book, or well, not quite end, but there's one page in the back, little coda. And it's not really a big spoiler, but I love this panel here too. The very last panel we get of the main story here, where we see why Amaterasu is going to Japan. And she's fulfilling her duties as a god. She is visiting the Shinto temples and trying to bless people who are praying to her. And we haven't seen that. We haven't seen these gods being like gods in the very traditional religious respect of answering prayers, which we get to see through Amaterasu, and I think that's just brilliant. This is a brilliant issue. It's not as formally interesting as the last issue, but I like this character. I like Amaterasu. I like these backstories and seeing this side of the character that we haven't really seen, that she's been kind of the most two-dimensional goddess so far, and the least dramatic by far. So I like seeing, why is she nice? Why is she who she is in the midst of all this other turmoil? And so I just thought this was a great issue, and I really enjoyed it. And the last book this week, because of course I'm saving it for last, is Sex Criminals number 13. Great cover. All these covers have been great, like from issue 1, but this in particular really jumped out at me. Z jumped because you have someone. So this is like the last couple, or issue 12 rather. We're getting into the backstories of some of the villains of the piece. We're getting into the backstory of Alex, who is one of Keagleface's henchmen, and we find out that she is asexual, and we kind of get this very sympathetic backstory of her backstory of growing up asexual, feeling like she doesn't belong, feeling like an alien, because as she's growing older and everything, she doesn't feel sexual attraction, which is a huge part of growing up, that she is just not, she just doesn't understand, and she tries it, and she feels alienated from her friends and her peers, and she tries having a boyfriend, and it's kind of pressured into sexual experience that she just doesn't have the drive to do. And yeah, it's really great, because, and as I was reading this, I was thinking it's really cool how they're setting up Susie and John, who are normal people. They have friends. They're heterosexual. I mean, John's probably bisexual, but they're normal people. They're people that you can relate to, that you can easily understand and be friends with, and they have other friends, and they seem pretty well adjusted, barring John's kind of depression. But even though he's getting therapy, it's affecting him personally, but it's not really affecting his ability to be a person. While the villains are seemingly a lot more outsider. We begin, the last henchman was this otaku character who lives with his grandma and is taking care of his mom or grandma, I forget, and seems to be very kind of closed off and has this really small bubble of people, and is into this kind of more, I don't know, let's say more deviant sounding kind of, less acceptable kind of sexual expression with the anime stuff. And then we introduce to Alex, who, because of her asexuality, feels completely cut off from a lot of social things, that because she doesn't understand or doesn't feel the drive for the same kind of cardinal need for sex, that she is cut out and removed from a large swath of society and her life. And they present her as like this really sympathetic being who just, she found her own way, and finds her own way to achieve. I mean, it's not explicitly clear whether it's orgasm in her case, but she gets a thrill from base jumping, and she doesn't need a parachute because she can stop time and enter cum world or whatever. And that's beautifully illustrated here. She jumps off a building and hits this portal and just kind of bounces back up and everything. And we see her reach that state of calm that the other characters have gotten through orgasm. And it's just great. It's great how we're seeing how Matt and Chip are really building this world. This isn't as funny as a lot of the other issues. This is less comedy, more kind of character piece. Though there is an very funny moment that I want to point out here. This page, where we catch up with John and Susie a bit, and just in the background we have Chip Zdarsky, who's getting a foot in the top hat and everything, getting a foot massage from Matt Fraction, and then this panel at the end where you just have Matt Fraction's getting coffee thrown at him, presumably by Chip. So there's still some humor here, even though this is a more sensitive, I guess, issue overall, but still very good, very well written, and I like how they're making the villains very sympathetic and like explaining, so not only do they have these powers that make them different, but just as people, they are the people who kind of would get excluded from a lot of normal life, I guess. So yeah, Sex Criminals, still brilliant, still probably my favorite book I read every month, and still heavily recommended. All three of these books I loved, and recommend that you pick them up from the beginning if you can. And that is it for this week in comic book reviews, what I've read. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in more superhero-y stuff, that is in the past 2 videos of this week that I recorded yesterday. So if you're in the mood, check those out. And but before you go on to that, or whatever you plan to do with the rest of your life, I don't know. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, like it, subscribe, all that YouTube-y junk. Any comments, I really do try and read them all, which, I mean, there aren't many. It's not like a big hassle, but, you know, the 2 or 3 I get per video, I try to read and think of something to engage in conversation or whatever. So feel free to do that below. And, yeah, just thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me for some more comic book reviews.